Hi, I'm Karsten Lemmer, Executive Board Member of the German Aerospace Center, responsible for innovation, transfer, and research infrastructure. And you are listening to the podcast IP Fridays.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of IP Fridays. Our names are Ken Suzanne and Rolf Claessen, and this is the podcast dedicated to intellectual property. It does not matter where you are from, in-house or private practice, novice or expert. We will help you stay up to date with current topics in the fields of trademarks, patents, design and copyright, discover useful tools, and much more.
Welcome to episode 167 of IP Fridays. Today's interview guest is Professor Karsten Lemmer, Executive Board Member of the German Aerospace Center DLR, and responsible for innovation, transfer and research infrastructure. A very high percentage of the startups at DLR are successful, and we talk about that and the reasons why, and we talk about the IP strategy of the DLR, the German Aerospace Center. But before we jump into the interview, I have news for you. The European Court of Justice strengthens enforcement of national trademarks across borders. In its ruling C-76 of 24, the European Court of Justice clarified that trademark owners can also take action against trademark-infringing goods if these are located in another member state, provided that they are intended to be offered or placed on the market in the country of protection. Germany slips in the Innovation Index. In WIPO's new Global Innovation Index 2025, Germany has fallen from 9th to 11th place. There's a boom in agricultural patents. According to a new technology report by the European Patent Office, digital agricultural technologies are growing 3 times faster than the average for all technology fields. And there has been a change at the top of the USPTO. In the US, the Senate confirmed John Squires as the new director of the US Patent and Trademark Office on September 18th. Squires, an experienced patent attorney with a focus on AI and fintech, takes over from interim director Coke Morgan Stewart. He announced plans to reduce patent backlog with digital tools and push ahead with reforms in patent law, for example through increased use of AI in examinations. Also about the USPTO, remote work at the USPTO is on the chopping block. President Trump issued an executive order on August 28, 2025, excluding the USPTO's entire patent business unit from federal collective bargaining protections. The executive order would effectively lead to a termination of remote work at the USPTO. Many examiners are expected to resign. Today's interview guest is Karsten Lemmer. If you don't know Karsten Lemmer, he is Executive Board Member at the German Aerospace Center DLR, responsible for innovation, transfer and research infrastructure. And thank you very much for being on IP Fridays.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
So you have been with DLR for over 25 years, I think, or something, a really long time in different positions. And you experienced a lot of different areas in DLR, within DLR. And now there is a separate executive board member for technology transfer, namely you at DLR. Why is there like a separate executive board member position for technology transfer at the DLR?
Yes, our DLR's claim is we are making research for results, or we're producing knowledge for tomorrow. For instance, independence in space, emission-free air transport, systemic transformation in transport, that means ground transport, and in the energy sector, digital and quantum technologies. So it's a really important issue. And my executive board division supports transfer of such results towards economy. The existence of this division proves the high priority of our transfer activities inside DLR, and therefore we located it directly in the board in order to organize that everything's going well. And property rights and licenses, among others, are one effective transfer tool to bring our research into application.
Mhm. And you just mentioned property rights and licenses. Why are they included in your board division?
Yes, licenses make the know-how accessible to the economy. It's a prerequisite for transfer, and more research organizations are judged by the impact and the value of what they create for economy and society. And for this, transfer of research results is vital, and property rights are a tangible materialization of such results. In parts, research activities are financed by taxpayers' money, and so we have to give something back to our taxpayers, and therefore it's very well located in that area. I can give you some examples on that. For example, we have working together with Roratech, and Roratech, it's a company dealing with forest fires, and the problem is the fast monitoring of forest fires and then accurate mapping. Usually it takes 6 months. Sometimes it's faster, 3 months. And the solution we have is the software, the Fire Beetle, that maps the forest fires automatically at almost in real time based on Earth observation data. And the know-how, in the end, is a combination of different optical sensors and several satellites, which leads to faster response. And we license the technology to the company, and they use it for their applications.
Mm. We just mentioned property rights, and among these property rights, maybe patents are very important for DLR, for the German Aerospace Center. You also have trademarks and designs, of course, and other property rights, but patents, you are very strong. So maybe can you tell us how the DLR is doing when it comes to patents?
I have to say we are doing well, more or less. So my colleagues doing well. In 2024, we have more than 280 patents and ranked on place 26th of the organization, the numbers of patents applications in Germany. The report comes from the German Patent and Trademark Office. And among these first-ranked organizations, we are the first-ranked research organization overall. And this was the second one year in a row, so we can be proud about that.
So even even stronger than Fraunhofer or Max Planck or so, the other research.
Yes, that's right. In the top 20, in the top 50 lists, there are only 2 research organizations, and we are on place 1.
Wow. Yeah, so you are a very strong patent filer in Germany. That's good. You are protecting the innovation. So what is your property rights policy? Do you have policies regarding patents, trademarks, or the rights?
Yes, we have. First of all, DLR is committed to transfer of research results by its statutes. And we file for an application of property rights if they are related to DLR research topics and if they appear to be new and inventive. I think it's obvious. And the property rights ensure a unique selling point, at least for DLR research and for our development activities. And that's important for our own research, as well for our partners, which take the patents for their application if they come from economy. And so the property rights applications are a very important prerequisite for the later transfer by licenses in the end. And that's what we do with it. So we use it for our own research, and on the other side, we license these patents in the end.
So you just mentioned licenses. I mean, there can be a lot of different kinds of reasons for filing patents, like trying to block competitors or licensing out technology. Is the DLR's property rights policy aiming at license income?
No, that's not the main point. The DLR, the German Aerospace Center, is a public-founded research organization. So we are a non-profit organization, and we are not allowed to earn money for profit. So our aim is not explicitly to get the highest possible license income when we design our research, but in the end, our aim is to bring technology into use. And it's obvious we cannot refinance our research and development with license revenues. But the necessity of appropriate license conditions is important. And if the revenues take a flow back, then the flow back comes to the institutes in their budget, and they use it again for their own research.
So you mentioned that it's not the main goal to get license fees, and you mentioned technology transfer. But why does the DLR apply for property rights at all? You could also just transfer the technology just by telling other people what you do, right?
Yes, that's in the area of science. It's normal that you have publications and not patents or anything else in that way. But we try to find the best possible way into application for research outcome. And if you use the research outcome for industrial application, you have, of course, the competition in the end. And applying for property rights gives us the control over who can use our technology. And we are trying to assure that it's economically feasible to our licensed property rights. And it's in the end, it's a good issue for our own research to see not only publication, and then it's a known community who's reading those publications. If you have the application of IPRs in the end, it's obvious it's a new thing. And typically research should produce new results.
Right. And you are supporting a lot of startups that are founded out of the DLR. And of course, they need this foundation, this basis. Otherwise, they would have a really hard case against competitors, probably. So why does the DLR support the researchers in founding startups? Why don't they want to keep the researchers inside the DLR, but why do you encourage the researchers to have their own startups?
Yes, you're absolutely right. The support of startups is another transfer part, and licensing to economic actors is one path. Generating new economies actors, it's another path. And sometimes we can combine them. That's a license of DLR spin-offs. And the spin-off is the most direct way of bringing research results into use. And currently, around 90% of our startups survive on the market. And that's a question of their technology, but it's obvious the licensing and the licensing conditions and the possibility to use exclusive the research result is really important for them as well. Or example is a company called Volatech. Volatech is a company in the growing field of maintenance of large solar fields. And the problem is the maintenance in the end. And they have a software, AI-based, for automated condition monitoring of solar plants. And they're using commercial drones. And in the end, they got the pictures, loading them up, and use it for their detecting of the maintenance condition. And the know-how is the equipment of the drones with the extended and customer-adapted version of the DLR Q-Fly technology. And so it's an important issue for the company. In the end, we use it in parallel for our own research. And typically, we're working close together. So the 90% of the startups which survives are partners for the future as well.
Wow, yeah, that's a really high number, I think. I'm also dealing with startups, of course, for the last 20 years as a patent attorney. But a 90% survival rate is a really high survival rate, I would say, especially in difficult times today. So why are the DLR startups that successful on the market? And do you have examples for the reasons, basically?
Yes, I think there are several reasons. In the end, one important aspect, most of our startups are dealing with deep tech like we do in DLR as well. So deep tech is quite a long development phase. It's typically expensive. And more or less, it's the when the product is ready for the market, then it brings mostly real innovations. And so it's a special issue. And if you need a huge amount of money, the investors as well think very well in detail, not to build a big bundle of 10 startups and maybe one survives. So they're looking more and more in detail. Besides this, we have the experience with the problems of deep tech founders they are facing, and we are supporting them. So we have an own DLR startup factory. The DLR startup factory is not a physical factory. It's a company building program that includes market studies, coaching, boot camps, networking, funding support, and so on. And our explanation is that our startups are so successful, why we support them. And besides this, there are some other factors as well. But it's more or less it's reproducible. So it's really important for us. And we founded the startup factory about 2 years ago in order to improve the amount of spin-offs in the DLR. And that's on a good track.
So let's talk about one of the possible reasons why startups can be successful from DLR. Usually startups can have the problem that they have really little money in the beginning. That's basically the definition of a startup typically, that they have a great idea but no money, and then they seek for investors and so on. And sometimes royalties can be quite inhibitive for a business model of a startup. So when they have to pay too much royalties, then they can't afford marketing or any other important activities. So how are DLR startups treated in license negotiations?
It's clear we're dealing all our customers in the same way, even if it's a large-scale company or it's a startup. So they have to license the technology or the software from DLR just as everyone else. We have no privileges to our own stuff, but we are trying to put encouraging conditions in place for entrepreneurship. That means startups do not need to pay the flat fee for license in the beginning, but they have the possibility to pay when the startup actually earns money. We are looking for good conditions for startups to use our research infrastructure. We try to realize a favorable personal situation for founders. That means we can pause a work contract. We have entrepreneurship times at the institutes and so on. And in special cases, it's not an obligation. We consider to hold shares in the startups as well. So, but it's completely separated, the shares from the licensing activities. So in the end, you're absolutely right. The startups have problems with little money. But if you find good ways to handle it, then it's possible to be successful in the end.
You just mentioned infrastructure. So I just want to inject another question. So when startups are founding their startup out of the DLR, out of the German Aerospace Center, so they can still use some of the infrastructure like laboratories?
Yes, we have large-scale research infrastructures. Many of them are unique worldwide. And of course, our startups can use it as well as anybody else who is interested in. You have to pay fees for the usage of these research infrastructure, but it's open more or less to everybody in the end. The advantage of our own startups is that typically they know the possibilities with the research infrastructure very well. It's a real advantage, but the costs for usage are unique for all partners in the end. And so we are open, even if there are startups which are not coming from DLR inside, then they have the possibility to work together with the DLR and using the DLR facilities in the end.
That's great to hear, especially that it's open to everyone, actually. Yeah, so because I know you have great infrastructure and great laboratories and unique laboratories, especially regarding space technology. So that's great to hear. I didn't know that.
Up to now, there are many companies using our infrastructure
Great.
for their own purpose. And typically, we are working together as in a partnership for innovative thing. But sometimes they use the infrastructure only for their own testing or something like that.
Mhm.
And if it's feasible without our stuff, they can do it in the end. With some infrastructure, you need the experts dealing with the infrastructure. But there are many ways, and we are open to handle it in these different ways.
Great. Let's turn to another topic, politics. It is sometimes a difficult topic, but let's see if you want to answer my question. So the new government just was established basically in Germany, and so in this context, I want to ask you, why are transfer and IP licenses important at the current economical but also political situation?
The handling of property right and the transfer is not new for DLR. We are doing it since decades, and taking care of the transfer from research to economy is important as ever. And so we are dealing with it. And with the stronger restriction in the public households, especially in Germany and European policy, they put more pressure on the scientific community for stronger transfer efforts. And in many cases, DLR can prepare innovations where development for private and economic actors would not be finally viable. So we are filling the innovation pipeline in the deep tech sector. And filling the innovation pipeline today means finding new solutions for the requirements of today and for tomorrow. These are questions like climate change or the new space economy and related independency efforts, or the area of artificial intelligence developments or upcoming security and safety concerns due to the geopolitical situation. We in the German Aerospace Center are ready to contribute to tackle all these challenges, and the DLR is ready to deliver.
All right. The government said they want to foster technology transfer in this new legislative period. Do you have an idea how they want to achieve this? I mean, you're a good example. You're doing this for decades already. But how do they want to achieve this? Do you have an idea?
I think the important issue to formulate it in a clear way that it is an important issue to look even in the scientific area, what is the outcome of what we do. And from a personal point of view, it's very meaningful not only to deal with something and be surprised about the results. I think it's not so difficult to ask from the beginning what might be the application, even if you are handling a low TRL level. That means on the low technology readiness level. So I mean, basic research. You can think about what might be the application area in that field. And if you working together with people dealing in that field, you see there are a lot of questions in that field. And of course, it's a common approach from the industry and the research community. But if the political side say it's important for us, they have a clear statement. How can we organize our research? And as you already mentioned, we are in the forefront in that area. But I think as a taxpayer as well, that's a really meaningful issue to handle these question of the future and using the knowledge of today and generating new knowledge for tomorrow. And therefore, it's very meaningful from my side.
Well, this has been a really great interview. You have given a lot of information, inside information from the German Aerospace Center to our listeners, and a lot of listeners come from the US, from maybe a very different environment, political environment, and also research environment. So it is maybe very insightful for them. So thank you very much for being on IP Fridays.
You're welcome.
That's it for this episode. If you liked what you heard, please show us your love by visiting ipfridays.com/love and tweet a link to this show. We would be so grateful if you would do that. It would help us out to get the word out. Also, please subscribe to our podcast at ipfridays.com or on iTunes or Stitcher.com. If you have a question or want to be featured in one of the upcoming episodes, please send us your feedback at ipfridays.com/feedback. Also, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can go to ipfridays.com/iTunes and it will take you right to the correct page on iTunes. If you want to get mentioned on this podcast or even have comments within the next episode, please leave us your voicemail at ipfridays.com/voicemail. You have been listening to an episode of IP Fridays. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by their respective law firms. None of the content should be considered legal advice. The IP Fridays podcast should not be construed as legal advice or legal opinion on any specific facts or circumstances. The contents of this podcast are intended for general informational purposes only, and you are urged to consult your own lawyer on any specific legal questions. As always, consult a lawyer or patent or trademark attorney. Copyright 2014, all rights reserved.